One can talk endlessly, describing piling words upon words, coming to various forms of conclusions. But out of all this verbal confusion, if there is one clear action, that action is worth 10,000 words. And most of us are so afraid to act because we ourselves are so confused, disorderly, contradictory, and rather miserable. And we hope through this confusion, through this disarray, some kind of clarity could come into being. A clarity that can never be clouded over. A clarity that is not of another. The clarity that is not given or induced or taken away. A clarity that keeps itself without any effort, without any volition, without any motive, alive. A clarity that has no end and have no beginning. Most of us do desire, or most of us, if we are at all aware of the inward confusion one has, one wants such clarity. And if we may, this morning, and I'm sorry you have to sit in a hall like this, when there are lovely clouds, clear sunshine, and waving trees, to sit in a hall is rather unpleasant, I'm sorry. I would like this morning, if I may, just say, if each one of us could come upon this clarity, so that when you leave this hall, your minds and your heart are very clear, undisturbed, no problem and no fear. If we could go into this, it would be eminently worthwhile to say for each one of us, if we could be light to ourselves, a light that has no dependence on another, that is completely free. And to go into that, one has to explore rather a complex problem. Either one can explore it intellectually, analytically, taking layer after layer of confusion and disorder, taking many days, many years, perhaps a whole lifetime. and then not finding it. Either you do that, this analytical cause and effect process, or perhaps you can sidestep all that completely and come directly without the intermediary of any authority of the intellect or of a norm. And to do that requires that much abused word, meditation. That word has become, unfortunately, a monopoly of the East. And therefore utterly worthless. I don't know why the mysticism, if it is mysticism at all and not self-hypnosis and illusion, why the Orient, the East, has this peculiar dominance over the West about spirituality, as though they have got it in their pocket and give it out to you. Most of them do at a considerable expense. You have to pay for it. Or they use that as a means of exploiting you in the name of an idea or a promise. I don't know why both in India and those unfortunate people that come out of that country, including myself, though I am not an Indian, I refuse to have any nationality, there is a peculiar feeling that being an old civilization have talked a great deal about this peculiar quality of spirituality, that they have this authority. I'm afraid they haven't. They are just like you and me. They're as confused, dull, clever with their tongue, and have learned one or two tricks. And can try to convey to others the method, the system of meditation. And so that word has become rather spoilt. Like love, it has been besmirched. But it is a lovely word. It has great deal of meaning. There is great deal of beauty. Not in the word itself, but the meaning behind that word. And we are going to see for ourselves, for each one of us, if we cannot come upon this state of mind that is always in meditation, to lay the foundation for that meditation. One must understand what living is. Living and dying. the understanding of that life and the extraordinary meaning of death is meditation. Not searching out some deep mystical experience. Not, as it is done in the East, a repetition of words, as also the Catholics and others do. A constant repetition of a series of words, however hallowed, however ancient, that only makes the mind quiet, but also it makes the mind rather dull, stupid, mesmerized. Might just as well take a tranquilizer, much easier. So that is not meditation. The repetition of words, the self-hypnosis, the following of a system or a method. I think we should be very clear about these two facts, experience and following a method, a system that promises a reward of vast transcendental experience and all that silly nonsense. When one talks about experience, the word itself means, does it not, to go through something, to be pushed through. And to experience implies also, doesn't it, a process of recognition. I had an experience yesterday, and it either gave me pleasure or pain, and to be entirely with that experience, one must recognize it. Recognition means something that has already happened before. And therefore, experience is never new. Do please bear this in mind. This can never be new, because it already has happened. And therefore there is a recollection, remembrance, a memory of it. And therefore, a person who says, I've had great transcendental, tremendous experience, such a person is obviously either exploiting others because he thinks he has a marvelous experience, which is already has happened, therefore it's utterly old, or a person who says, I have had most extraordinary spiritual experience, wants to exploit others. Truth can never be experienced. That's the beauty of it. Because it's always new. It's never what has happened yesterday. That must be totally, completely forgotten or gone through what has happened yesterday. The incident of yesterday must be finished with yesterday. But to carry that over as an experience to be measured in terms of achievement, to convey to others that one has something extraordinary to impress, to carry, to convey, to convince others seems to me so utterly silly. So one must be very cautious, guarded about this world experience. Because you can only experience and remember that experience only when it has already happened to you. That means there must be a center, a thinker, an observer who retains, holds the thing that is over, and therefore something already dead, and therefore nothing new. It's like a Christian steeped in his particular conditioning, burdened with 2,000 years of propaganda. When he perceives or has a vision of his Savior, whatever he may call him, it is merely a projection of what has been, his own conditioning, his own wish, his own desire. It's the same in the East. Their own particular Krishna, or whatever that is. So one must be tremendously cautious about this word. You cannot possibly experience truth as long as there is a center of recollection as the me, as the thinker. Truth is not. And when another says that he has had an experience of the real, distrust him. Don't accept his authority. And we all want to accept somebody who promises something. Because we have no light in ourselves. And nobody can give you that light. None. No guru, no teacher, no savior, no one. Because we have accepted so many authorities in the past. We have put our faith in others. Either they have exploited us, or they have utterly failed. So one must distrust, deny all spiritual authority. Nobody can give us this light that never dies. And the other thing is, this acceptance of authority, the following of another who promises through a certain form, certain system, method, discipline, the eventual ultimate reality. To follow another is to imitate. Please do observe all this. Listen to all this simply. Because that's what one has to do. One has to completely deny the authority of another, however pretentious, however convincing, however Asiatic he be. To follow implies not only the denying of one's own clarity, one's own investigation, one's own integrity and honesty, but also it implies that your motive in following is the reward. And truth is not a reward. If one is to understand it, any form of reward and punishment must be totally set aside. Authority implies fear. And to discipline oneself according to that fear of not gaining what the exploiter in the name of truth or experience or all the rest of it says, denies one's own clarity and honesty. And if you say you must meditate, you must follow a certain path, a certain system, obviously you are conditioning yourself according to that system or method. And what that method promises perhaps you will get, but it will be nothing but ashes. Again, the motive there is achievement, success, and the root of it is fear. Fear is pleasure. And so, having clearly understood that between you and yourself and myself, that there is no authority in this. The speaker has no authority whatsoever. And he is not trying to convince you of anything. Or asking you to follow. You know, when you follow somebody, you destroy that somebody. The disciple destroys the master, and the master destroys the disciple. You can see this happening historically in daily life. When the wife or the husband dominate each other, they destroy each other. In that there is no freedom, there is no beauty, there is no love. So having laid that clearly, then we can proceed to meditate about life, about death, about love. Because if we do not lay the right foundation of order, of clear line and depth, then thought must inevitably become tortuous, deceptive, unreal, and therefore valueless. So, the laying of this order, this foundation, is the beginning of meditation. Our life, the daily life which one leads, from the moment we are born till we die, through marriage, children, jobs, cunning achievements. Our life is a battlefield, not only within ourselves, but also outwardly. In the family, in the office, in the group, in the community, and so on. Our life is constant struggle. That is what we call living. A pain, fear, despair, anxiety, with enormous sorrow constantly our shadow. That's our life. Some of us, perhaps a small minority, and it's always the small minority that do create, bring about a vital change. Perhaps the small minority, neither accepting or denying this disorder, this confusion, this frightening mess in ourselves and in the world, can look at it, can observe this disorder without finding external excuses, though there are external causes for this confusion. To observe this confusion, to know it, not only at the conscious level, but also at the deeper level. You know, a great deal, especially in the West, has been written about the unconscious. They have given such extraordinary significance to it. It is as trivial, as shallow as the conscious mind. You can observe it yourself. Not according to any specialist. If you observe it, you will see that what is called the unconscious, is the residue of the race, of the culture, of the family, of your motives, appetites, and all the rest of it is there, hidden. And the conscious mind is occupied with the daily routine of life. Going to the office, the sex motives, all the rest of it. And to give importance to one or to the other seems to me so utterly empty. Both are very little meaning, except the conscious mind has to have a technological knowledge in order to have a livelihood. And this constant battle, both within, at the deeper layer, as well as the superficial layer, is the constant way of our life. And therefore, a way of disorder, a way of disarray, contradiction, misery. And such a mind, trying to meditate by going to some school in the East, is so utterly meaningless, infantile. And so many do, as though they can escape from life, put a blanket over their misery and cover it up. So, meditation is bringing about order in this confusion. Not through effort, because every effort distorts the mind. That one can see. To see truth, mind must be absolutely clear, without any distortion, without any compulsion, without any direction. So, this foundation must be laid, and which is, there must be virtue. Order is virtue. This virtue has nothing whatsoever to do with the social morality, which we accept. Society has imposed on a certain morality, and the society is the product of every human being. Society, with its morality, says you can be greedy, you can kill another, in the name of God, in the name of your country, in the name of an ideal. You can be competitive, you can be greedy, envious, monstrous, within the law. And so, such morality is no morality at all. You must totally deny that morality within yourself in order to be virtuous. And that's the beauty of virtue. Virtue is not a habit. It's the thing that you practice day after day in order to be virtuous. Then it becomes mechanical routine without meaning. But to be virtuous means, does it not? To know what is disorder. The disorder, which is this contradiction within ourselves, this tearing of various pleasures and desires and ambitions, greed, envy, fear, all that. Those are the causes of disorder within ourselves and outwardly. To be aware of it, to come into contact with this disorder. And you can only come into contact with it when you don't deny it, when you don't find excuses for it, when you don't blame others for it. Then, in the denial of that disorder, there is order. Order isn't a thing that you establish daily. What virtue, which is order, comes out of disorder, to know the whole nature and structure of that disorder. This is fairly simple if you observe in yourself how utterly disorderly we are, which is how contradictory. We hate and we think we love. There is the beginning of disorder, this duality. And virtue is not the outcome of duality. Virtue is a living thing to be picked up daily, not the repetition of something which you called virtue yesterday. And that becomes mechanical, worthless. So there must be disorder. There must be order. And that's part of meditation. And order means beauty. There is so little beauty in our life. And beauty is not man-made. It's not in the picture, however modern it is or however ancient. It's not in the building, in the statue, in the cloud or on the leaf or on the water. Beauty is where there is order. A mind that is utterly unconfused. That is absolutely orderly. And there can be order only when there is total self-denial. When the me has no importance whatsoever. And the ending of the me is part of meditation. That is the major, the only meditation. And also, we have to understand another phenomena of life, which is death. Old age, disease, and death accidentally, through disease, or naturally. We grow old inevitably. And that age is shown in the way we have lived our life. It shows in our face how we have satisfied crudely, brutally our appetites. We lose sensitivity. The sensitivity that one has had when one is very young, fresh, innocent. And as we grow older, we become insensitive, dull, unaware, and gradually enter the grave. So there is old age. And there is this extraordinary thing called death, of which most of us are dreadfully frightened. If we are not frightened, we have rationalized this phenomena intellectually and have accepted the edicts of the intellect. But it's still there. And obviously, there is the ending of the organism, the body. And we accept that naturally, because we see everything dying. But what we do not accept is the psychological ending. The me, with the family, with the house, with the success, the things I have done, the things I have to do, the fulfillments and the frustrations, and there's something more to do before I end. And the psychological entity, the me, the I, the soul, the various four words that we give to this center of myself as my being, we are afraid that will come to an end. Does it come to an end? Does it have a continuity? And the East has said it has a continuity. Reincarnation, being born Perhaps if you have lived rightly, better, next life. And you have here another forms of resurrection and new way of, all that. After all, if you believe in reincarnation as the whole of Asia does, I don't know why they do, but they do, because it gives them a great deal of comfort. If you do believe in that idea, then in that idea is implied, if you observe it very closely, that what you do now every day matters tremendously. Because the next life, you're going to pay for it or be rewarded how you have lived. So what matters is not what you believe will happen next life, but what you are, how you live. And that's implied also when you talk about resurrection. You have symbolized it in one person and worship that person. Because you know yourself, you don't know how to be reborn again in your life now. Not in heaven, at the right hand of God or left hand or behind or forward of God, whatever that may mean. So what matters is how you live now. Not what you think, what your beliefs are, what your dogmas, superstitions, what your achievements are, but what you are, what you do. And we are afraid that this center called the I should come to an end. And we say, does it come to an end? If you have lived in thought, please listen to this. If you are lived in thought, that is when you have given tremendous importance to thinking. And thinking is old. Thinking is never new. Thinking is the continuation of memory. If you have lived there, obviously, some kind of continuity there is. And it is a continuity that is dead, over, finished. Something old. Therefore, only that which ends can have something new. So dying is very important to understand. To die. To die to everything that one knows. I don't know if you ever tried it. To be free from the known. To be free from your memories, even for a few days. To be free from your pleasure, without any argument, without any fear. To die to your family, to your house, to your name, to become completely anonymous. It's only the person that is completely anonymous is in a state of non-violence. He has no violence. And to die every day, not as an idea, but actually. Do it sometime. You know, one has collected so much, not books, not houses, not bank account, but inwardly. The memories of insults, the memories of flattery, the memories of neurotic achievements, the memory of holding on to your own particular experience which gives you a position. To die to all that, without argument, without discussion, without any fear, just to give it up. Do it sometime, you will see. It used to be the old tradition in the East that a rich man every 5 years or so gave up everything, including his money, and began again. You can't do that nowadays. There are too many people. Everyone wanting your job, population explosion and all the rest of it. But to do it psychologically, it is not detachment. It's not giving up your clothes, your wife, your husband, or your children, or your house. But inwardly, not to be attached to anything. In that there is great beauty. After all, it is love, isn't it? Love is not attachment. When there is attachment, there is fear. And fear inevitably becomes authoritarian, possessive, oppressive, dominating. So, meditation is the understanding of life which is to bring about order. Order is virtue which is light, which is not to be lit by another. However experienced, however clever, however erudite, however spiritual, nobody on earth or in heaven can light that, except yourself in your own understanding and meditation. And to die to everything within oneself. For love is innocent and fresh, young and clear. Then, if you have established this order, this virtue, this beauty, this light in oneself, then one can go beyond. Which means then the mind, having laid order, which is not of thought, then the mind becomes utterly quiet, silent, naturally, without any force, without any discipline. And in the light of that silence, all action can take place, the daily living from that silence. And if one has, or if one were lucky enough to have gone that far, then in that silence there is quite a different movement, which is not of time, which is not of word, which is not measurable by thought, which is always new. It is that immeasurable something that man has everlastingly sought. But You have to come upon it. It cannot be given to you. It is not the word, not the symbol. Those are destructive. But to come, for it to come, you must have complete order, beauty, love, and therefore you must die to everything that you know in your psychologically, so that your mind is clear, not tortured, so that it sees things as they are, both outwardly and inwardly.